Paul, you are a serial entrepreneur, and you also have business in Dubai. And we know that the UAE is a gateway to the crypto world right now. If I'm not mistaken, there are even 2 hubs in the UAE, one in Abu Dhabi and one in Dubai. Can you please share with us why you chose this location and what is interesting in the UAE that we can actually take to our country, for example?
Thank you so much. Just a bit of a context. I'm a career-long management consultant, worked in North America, Europe, Middle East, Asia. One thing that I have dedicated my life to is, building businesses that will last. And that's closely connected to business architecture. Made a pivot towards the Web3 and blockchain over last 2 years with the idea that was brought together during our engagement in a high reliability industry, which is encompassing defense, nuclear energy, petrochemical, oil and gas. One thing that I would really like to kind of zoom in before I zoom out is that the key to success is to ensure that people do the right thing when nobody's watching. So how do you create the culture of success? That's number one. And number two, I really want to highlight that Dubai is just one of the cities, one of the geographies that is jockeying for that global capital of the crypto and Web3, together with Singapore, with Hong Kong. More recently, there are talks about Riyadh getting into this race, and this is a global trend. What I would like to highlight about Dubai, they have done a tremendous job in terms of structuring the baseline, making sure there is a very visible and very, obvious connectivity between the private, public, as well as the regulatory factors that should contribute to the success of their agenda. The second thing is there are very progressive taxation policies that are attracting some of the top talent to this region. And most importantly, they are focusing on the availability of the capital. So the entrepreneurs, as well as the engineering talent, sees this as a place to go when it comes to fundraising. What I would like to highlight also is that despite the technical perspectives that are very correct, a lot of these countries are still facing challenges with the mainstream adoption due to the sheer fact, in my humble view, that we collectively are missing the point. And I think the transformation that is upon us deserves a deeper consideration from the socio-economic perspective. What I'm trying to say here, we need to look at this trend of blockchain and technology from the core perspective, from the psychological, from the social perspective, from the philosophical perspective. What are the changes that this mindset is driving? Who is the cause of the problems that these changes are upon us now, and how will this be resolved? And I think this is the core to success. And I think Russia, due to its rich cultural history, due to its massive talent potential, is a very well positioned to crack the code. And what's really gonna come down to becoming the capital of this technology is to answer the question, what's in it for me? Nobody's going to go to any place of this planet because of the regulation. We don't need more regulation. We need less regulation. What are we looking for is freedom. We're looking for opportunities. We're looking for capital. So I think, in my humble view, those are the success factors that have to come together. And ultimately, that will lead to the top results.
Thank you very much. Very interesting point of view. Indeed, there is a global competition for the Web3 enthusiasts, and I would say that crypto enthusiasts, they have a lot of options right now, and it's very difficult, to convince them to come to a new destination. Anyway, Paul, we have a lot of people today from traditional financial institutions. And before the conference, I had some chats with some people. And to be honest with you, not everyone understands what Web3 is and what are the main advantages. You mentioned in your previous speech about freedom, capital, but how would you describe the main advantages of Web3 to our audience, people who work in traditional financial institutions?
Sure. As a consultancy, one thing that we do is, unlike most of the top consultancies, we really want to walk the walk and then, learn from the driver's seat perspective. So what we have done over the last 2 years, we went into the tunnel with no light and kind of started discovering, searching, and learning. One thing that was a result of this journey is our native layer 1 protocol, NextGen Chain, that is a result of the supercluster first in this space established in Europe and worldwide. And what really was the aha moment for us is that we took the scientific approach to understanding this. What is a blockchain essentially? What is the impact on the financial sector? It's essentially the same thing that email did to the post office. It will completely transform the banking as we know it today. And how this change is going to hit upon us is not through the technology. It will be through the social change, through the change of the expectation that the new generations have, and most importantly, it will be driven by the economy, and more likely by declining economy. People cannot afford the traditional banking anymore. And this is what the core values of the blockchain that can be summarized into transparency, decentralization, as well as immutability is gonna drive. What that means is that the banking sector will not disappear, of course, but it will transform significantly. New services will have to be introduced. Acceptance of the new levels of risk will become the norm. And the blockchain, most importantly, is going to socialize some of the services. Decentralized finance is going to become the norm. Crowdfunding of the credit is going to become the norm. And all these things are happening on a smaller scale, in a much more difficult ways to understand and to see, but the communities that are driving, empowering Web3 are already executing these technologies. So to kind of summon it up, blockchain is a great technology that is still searching for its soul through the business use case that will help it become the mainstream. In our view, what we have seen, the key driver of the adoption is going to be obviously driven to the next level through education, but the key use case is going to be access to capital. And where we are spending a lot of time is on the foreign direct investment as a service, which in our humble view is a great opportunity for the banks. In other words, how do you empower governments as well as the enterprises to access capital in the emerging markets? How do you finance your business, your government, your country through the use of the blockchain, real-world asset tokenization, and most importantly, without the traditional overhead of the legacy economies?
Thank you, Paul. I want to continue with you since we are almost out of time. The final round, the final question to everyone, I want you to answer in 30 seconds. So in your view, what is the biggest trend in Web3 blockchain in the next 3-5 years? Just very short. What is?
In my view, and this is empirically supported, it will be real-world asset tokenization that will drive the adoption of the technology, and most importantly, it will drive real-world results and outcomes that the world is expecting.
Professor Leo,